What if your office was anywhere? Today, Jamie Sylvian shows us how to run a global business from a laptop without burning out, dropping quality, or losing clients. Before we start, tap follow and subscribe and leave a five-star review so more people can get practical, freedom-focused strategies. Now, welcome back today to The Advisor with Stacey Chillemi, where insight becomes action. By the end of this episode, you have traveled proof and workflow and a simple tech stack and a five-step plan to get a month of road without wrecking your business. Now, Jamie, welcome to the show and please say hello. I'm very excited to have you on the show. And I just love your story and how you were able to just transition your life into something that turned out to be so wonderful and so profitable, where you were able to live the life you wanted and get rid of that burnout and that stress that you were receiving at your old job. So tell us a little about yourself and what you do.
Hey Stacey, it's lovely to be here. So my name's Jamie Sylvian. I'm the founder of a brand called Executive Nomad. Now, everybody's heard of digital nomads. They're the people that they live off their laptop and they're usually in their 20s and they're working in beach bars in Bali and Spain and all around the world. But there's actually a subset of that. I've actually been an executive nomad, which you can also work from a bar in Bali if that's your choice. But I've run this business as a consulting business, but I just happen to run it from anywhere I want to be. So I've lived in 13 countries. I travel around all of the time. I have my company that's registered in one jurisdiction, and I live in all different jurisdictions, which helps me tax-wise, it helps me travel-wise, it helps me with residency. I've worked with, and I still work with, blue chip companies all over the world. I do a lot of work in the UK. I'm from London originally. I have a lot of clients in London, and all of my business is in this format. I very, very rarely go and see a client. I very rarely sit in the same room. I present my offer to them, the service that I do, and they know right from the start that it's done in this format. And it doesn't matter where in the world, anyone who's an executive nomad, doesn't matter where you are, you can run a business like this. You just need to structure it and framework it properly so that it works for you and for your client.
I love that. I love that. Now, in plain English, what does your typical workday look like on the road?
So I try and hold my day to two meetings like this a day with clients. I
Hmm.
never do any calls on a Wednesday. I never do any meetings on a Wednesday. That's my thinking day, which is where I go with a notepad to a cafe somewhere and just think through my business.
Right.
And it's usually about 4 hours a day, and it's a lot of work just giving clients advice. I work in strategy and communications, which I've done for over 25 years. And I give them an outside perspective. So I take all of the business clients that I've worked with. We've done loads of projects, and I give them different perspectives, and that's how I roll. That's how my business operates.
I love that. Now, where are your non-negotiable for health, focus, and relationships while traveling?
So one of the tricky things in of being a digital nomad is it's transient. You know, I've just come back from Greece. I was in Greece for a few months. I'll be in Greece in another month or so. I'm currently in Bulgaria. I'll be in Spain on Monday. So it's a beautiful lifestyle, with the caveat that creating relationships can be, as in deep relationships, real friends, because you're a transient person. They see you coming and going and so on. But actually, I've got to know people all over the world. And if any big city I go to, I'm going to know people that I've met in the nomad space over the last 25 years. So it has its ups and downs, and definitely, if you're somebody who really wants one relationship or a few very close relationships, it can be tricky. But I love the way I can just move around and meet people I haven't seen for a year, and I meet them tomorrow, and it's like we've never been out of the same room, which is lovely. I really like it, and we've always got new stories to talk about as well, because we've been doing our traveling and so on.
I love that. I love that. Now, what mistake did you make early on that listeners can avoid in that 1 week?
Yeah, gosh, I made loads of mistakes, but it was a long time ago. So I think there's two things. One is that I thought it would be easier than it was, but that's before technology caught up.
Yeah.
Technology really caught up, and this stuff didn't exist a few years ago. And even if it did, when you're on calls, people expected you to be in the room with them. So
Right.
I did an awful lot of traveling to and from clients because I always felt that they wanted me in the room. And that was A, it was expensive, B, time consuming. So I have to be in London tomorrow and then in Dublin 3 days later. And that was most of the time spent traveling. Whereas now I'll settle in a place for a month, 2 months, 3 months. And then that means I get to see the country. It means I get to see the people. I know the technology that I've got. So I get there early and make sure that all of the tech kit, because there's nothing more important than having the right tech kit.
Yeah.
I think just sort of creating a service and sticking to the plan because then it's expectations. Your clients know what to expect.
I love that. Now, how do you decide what to say no to and what freedom doesn't become chaos?
So I have a well, yes, two points there. So I always have this kind of a meeting before there's any business, and I've kind
Mhm.
of reached the point in my career where I'll decide pretty quickly if I feel I can feel I can help them, but also if I feel like I want to work with them. You just
Yeah.
you get a vibe. It's more difficult, of course, to get a vibe over the screen, but you
Yeah.
still do it. Um, and also, I'm very clear on the parameters of what I offer to clients and so on, so they know exactly what they're going to get. But obviously, you always try your best and do a bit more, but that's kind of what I do. I'm pretty clear with my parameters, and I also get paid up front. That's always important.
Yes. Now, if a listener wants to start tomorrow, what is the minimum viable tech stack project? Management, storage, payments, and so forth.
So the first thing to do if you is to decide if this kind of lifestyle is for you. So a lot of the people that I work with they've come from the corporate world
Yeah.
and they are looking for they're burnt out, they're heading towards retirement, maybe the company's been sold, but they're people with an experience
Yeah.
and they are looking for answers to their business problems. So they're good quality people. Um, in order to do that, you've got to have the right environment. They've got to know that everything's going to work. They're going to know they're busy people, they're executives, and so on. So I have as I said, the tech stack. I'm just switching over to Starlink for internet. That means I've got it with me, and I always know it's working. So
Mhm.
that's a big thing that I've cut out. But honestly, most of my work is done on either on this scenario or just on my iPhone. So my clients and they're very comfortable. And I'm kind of lucky, Stacey, that they don't always want video meetings. They want to just be able to pick up the phone and talk to me when they're going through a situation. So it's very, very low key. It's very low
Right.
tech. You don't need a lot of stuff, and very much things like storage for your data and stuff like that. It's very easy. Just Google Docs. That's all I've used for I think 15 years or so.
I love that. Now, what do you run, your work across? Like what time zones without dropping the balls and getting overstressed?
Oh, yeah, that's also good. How's that? You're in the States. Let's say I'm over in Europe at the minute, so it's
Yeah.
my 7:20 in the evening. I think it's your 1:20.
Right.
You just don't do it all the time. So my days with working with America and Canada are usually Mondays and Tuesdays. No calls on
Yeah.
Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays. I tend to do Asia and London. So that's kind of and it works for me. You've got to be flexible, Stacey, because it's the clients running a business. But generally, once they've got to know you, once you've built up your client base, they kind of know what to expect. It gets to a point where they want to know where you are all the time. It becomes a part of the conversations, like because they know they're still in the same office in London or New York, and it's pouring down with rain outside.
Yeah.
I'll be, on I've worked from an elephant park in Thailand for 6 months. Every day in the cafe, watching the elephants go past while I was doing my video call. So that in itself becomes a story. That becomes a conversational piece, and it's wonderful for building relationships with clients when they kind of have there's that tinge of jealousy when they see that you're having a bit of an adventure.
Now, what does a great client experience look like when you're 8 hours ahead on boarding and updates and guarantees and so forth?
Yeah, so it starts with, as I said before, setting out the parameters, but it starts with what they're trying to get to. What is the challenge they want? So some of the work that I do is in capital raising for companies. They want to buy another business, they want to integrate or something like that. So as long as I know the parameters first, then I'll talk through. I'll say, what is it that you want to get to? What
Yeah,
would you call it a success of my work with you? And we'll get as close as we can to that. And they're always aware because they're at an executive level. They're aware of things change, and they're aware of things go right, things go wrong, and or, everything in between. But as long as you've set out what their expectations are first, really early on, and you know that you can meet them. If you don't think you can meet them, I either just back off the project or I say, I'll make some introductions to you. I can't help you with that part of it, but I know somebody who can. And then
right.
I'm happy to pass it on.
That's a great idea. A lot of times some people, they keep trying, they give advice when they're not really equipped to give the right advice. And, it's good when you know, this isn't my expertise. You know what? Let me introduce you to so and so. And,
Yeah.
I think they will really be able to help you on this matter. That's a great idea. Now walk us through your sales pipeline, from a laptop. How do leads find you, and how do you, close while traveling?
Okay, so obviously everything's digital. However, having said that, one of my secret ways of getting clients is through direct mail, old school,
All
sales
right.
letter in an envelope at the stamp, because nobody does it, Stacey. So you can
Yeah.
go on to I know that so for example, I reach out to a lot of HR executives because they've got all the links with inside their company. So I introduce myself to them. I send them a letter. It lands on their desk, and that is so unusual that it grabs attention. But I do all of that just from my laptop here. I use a company called Stamp, STANP.com. And you write out the letter, you buy in the data off Apollo.io or get it off of LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and which gives you all of the details that you need, and you put the letter together. And I do have just this is important for everybody to know. So because I'm not in any one particular country, I do have a London telephone number that anybody rings me, and I can be in Timbuktu or in New York, or my London number will call.
Right.
Conversely, if I'm working with America, I have a New York phone number, and it's VoIP numbers, VoIP numbers, but they just come through to my phone. And I also have a London address, which is basically an accommodation address. They call it a virtual business address.
Right.
So I don't scare people off by them thinking I'm running off to different countries. It all looks very much like a proper business with a proper address and so on. So I kind of once I've got to know them, I can let them know that I'm in an elephant park or wherever I am, but never do it early. That's the rule. Never tell them too early how much fun you're having.
I love that. Now, when does Wi-Fi, dies or travel goes sideways? Like, what is your no drama backup plan?
So yeah, that's a great question because it does happen, especially out in Asia. You tend to get it more, but I
Yeah.
always scope out a place before I go. And so, for example, Stacey, if I'm going to an Airbnb, I'll plan to be there for a full week before I start doing client facing business, because then I know what the situation is. But also wherever I go, I'll always look for a local co-working place. Now I
Right.
never book in to use it, but that's always my backup plan because they always have great internet because all the digital nomads, the younger nomads, they
Yeah.
it's their absolute number one priorities before they ask about anything. Used to be
Yeah.
nightclubs and where all the parties were, but now they want to know they've got good Wi-Fi.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Now, how do you choose locations like time zones, internet, safety, and cost? Like, what is your filter?
Um, I like well I what I tend to do is I really like cities. I'm from London, so every now and again I've got to go and suck in some exhaust fumes just to keep my lungs working. But
Yeah.
I tend to mix it up. So right now I'm in a ski resort. So we're just coming into the ski season. But come January when it gets crazy busy here, I'm going to go down to Greece where I'll be in a city. So I'll be there for a couple of months, and then I'll kind of have enough of the city vibe, and I'll do something else. I also go to when I travel to Spain a lot. I spend a lot of my time in Spain, where I have family. So I'll pack up and head back there in early 2026 for perhaps for March and April. So I just like that time of year. So I don't
Yeah.
have a specific plan. I like to see cities I haven't seen, and
Yeah.
also because cities always have the right internet connections and so on. So.
Very true. Very true. Now, what routines keep you steady? Your sleep, workouts, meals, and deep work blocks.
Yeah, so I'm very, very strict on my 10,000 steps a day, because it's actually great for work. I stick a podcast on, or I listen to an audio book, and that's a
Yeah.
part of my working day. And I'll usually stop at a cafe if I've got a call and it's an audio call. I'll just stop at a cafe, grab a coffee, and have my calls. But then I definitely finish my 10,000 steps, and I usually sign into a gym. If I'm there for a while, I'll sign into a gym, and if it's a place that I've come to before, if I go into Spain, I always go to the same kind of place. I know people, I've got friends there. I just go to the same gym. So I'm pretty relaxed about it. I'm not, I don't. If I miss the gym for a couple of days, I'm all right with that. I know I'll survive.
Now, what is your go bag so you can work anywhere in 10 minutes?
Yeah, my iPhone, Mac. I've got a tiny, tiny little thing called a little camera. It's about so big. It's about an inch wide, an inch square, and it is the tiniest camera with the best quality you can imagine. So I can just plug it in straight into my Mac, and I'm good to go.
Oh,
I
wow.
can be on a business call in about 2 minutes. It's really
I
important to
love
do that
that.
as well.
Now, how do you avoid loneliness and burnout, community and co-working and time off?
So, in terms of meeting people, there's internations.com, which is a great place. So, I'm heading down to Sofia shortly, and I just look online to see what they're up to. I'm a member of internations.com, and it just tells you what's going on in that city. And if when I go to Greece in the next in the coming weeks, the internations have a place for that city too. So that's all. There's always somewhere to go, and the co-working spaces are just great. They're always doing something. So but I'm also happy with my own company too, Stacey. So I kind of mix and match there too. So I could go off for a walk for hours in the day and just be happy with me, happy talking to my inside my own head.
Now, for visas and taxes and insurance, like what high level principles should people consider before they hop on a plane?
Yeah, it's a great question. So insurance, definitely you've got to get it right, because depending on what you do, if you're into the cities and so on, you can always find, if you ever got a problem, you can find a doctor, a dentist, and all that stuff.
Right.
But it can get expensive if you're not, if you're not part of the system there. So always, nomad insurance is really important. In terms of visas, usually if you stay less than 90 days, you don't have a problem. Of course, around for me around Europe, I can go wherever I like, which is great. But normally, as long as you keep within those 90 days, or some of them are 180 days for tax reasons and so on. But I
Yeah.
never stay in any one place usually longer than 3 months, and you just got to you've got to work out where you can go in the year that you've got in terms of travel. So I spend a lot of time in Cyprus. I love to go to Cyprus and that. You're limited to the amount of time you can stay there. The UK now is out of Europe, so you're limited to the amount of time that you can stay in the UK if you don't have a British passport. So.
Oh, okay. Now, if your flight's delayed and a client calls and starts in 20 minutes, like what do you do?
I just get on the call on my phone. They're very relaxed. Once you've got the relationship, they're very, very relaxed, and they, as I said before, they're excited to know they're kind of living your life vicariously a little bit.
Yeah,
They're interested in where you are, what you're doing, and so on. So
right.
if you're calling up from everybody's been in sitting at an airport and it all goes wrong, so they're fine as long as I've got my phone, got the internet. And sometimes if the internet's great, I'll say just call me, and they're usually great. Relationships are so important,
They are.
and the transparency as well. Because if you try and protect, you've got to structure your business so that your client feels comfortable, But once
Yeah.
you've got that done and they've met you, they've had this kind of a conversation, and they trust you, and you've got the credibility and all of that stuff, then they're pretty good with it. It got a lot easier, I have to say, Stacey, after COVID, with this nature of business. I'm sure you
Yeah.
experienced the same. Is that there was always the question, when are you? Where are you now? I'm in Malaga. I'm in Spain, and wherever. Oh, when are you back in London?
Right.
And I would say, well, I haven't lived there for 20 years, so I'm not in a particular rush. But now, honestly, they don't even ask. This is such a normal environment. So I always think that technology's caught up with where with my lifestyle. Finally, I've been doing this for 25 years, so
Yeah.
yeah.
But here's
Yeah, I think
another
it's
scenario.
relationships are important. Go on, sorry.
Yes, relationships are so important. They really are. And it
Yeah,
develops trust, and you develop a special relationship where you're able to really work with one another, and you have that care and that trust with each other.
yeah.
And it's so important to have that in order to have that successful relationship where you could actually, really accomplish a lot with that individual.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think it's number one actually, especially because you're not in the office with them. You're not sharing the Friday night beers. You're not sharing those, the twos and fros of the business and business politics. You're outside of that, so you have another level to get through to sort of build out that relationship. I think I'm pretty good at it in terms of that you get them to open up and you can sort of dive a bit deeper into the challenges that they have. And once you've gone through two or three projects with them, usually they're fine. They know they tell me all about their family and all that sort of stuff, which I find fascinating. And with most of them I've never met, so in the real
Yeah.
world.
And I love that. I love that. So here's another scenario. So there's no
Yeah,
reliable internet today. How do you keep the momentum?
the momentum in what terms? In terms of marketing or in terms of client relations?
Clients relations.
I I would go. I can honestly say I've never had that experience. I've had the experience of stuff going down on a call like this, lightning strikes or
Yeah.
whatever. But if I'm in a town and I'm concerned that I've got a call within an hour, within 2 hours, or the next day, if I'm concerned that I'm going to have an issue, I will make sure that I go to. If you go to an upper end hotel, they've always got great internet. If you go
Hmm.
to a co-working, they've got the best internet. So it's all about forward planning to make sure you haven't got that. Because, I do say you have a relationship, so if things happen and they're usually fine, you don't want it to happen too often, right? So,
Yeah.
you still got to be reliable. They still got to know that I'm as close to being in their office in this environment as I possibly can be. And so I would never put myself in a position where I'm right in the outbacks of nowhere when I've got
Right.
client calls coming. That's really important because at the end of the day they pay for this lifestyle.
Yeah.
Being the person that brings this skill set to their project, whatever it might be. That's what pays for me to be able to do this. So I think it's really important. And it's respect for the client as well.
Exactly. Now, if there's an emergency at home, how do you keep the business running while you fly back?
It's not a reactive business.
Hmm.
It's not. I'm never in the situation where they say, we need a call now. We need this now. I'm always working like 2 or 3 weeks ahead. I'll say, right, okay,
Okay.
this is what we need to work on. Let's do that. So again, it's just about planning, Stacey. It's just about making sure that you're, as much as you can. But it's not a business that people ring up and say, I need help now with this. It just, they're not my kind of clients either, because that means they're not running their business properly to me
Right.
in the nature of what we do. I appreciate there are reactive businesses, of course.
Yes. Now, Jamie, listeners were promised 5 concrete actions. Would you please share 5 things that they could do this month to test the laptop business lifestyle safely?
Yeah, for sure. The first thing you've got to do is you've got to know what you're going to offer. And the best way to do that. I've put together a free app. It's at executivenomad.app.app. And you can type into that your business experience. It's what I call, Stacey, wins, losses, and lessons. In your career, if you think that being a coach, being a consultant, being a strategist, being a communication strategist like I am, if you think you could live the laptop lifestyle, but also you think consulting, because consulting is the lowest tech business in there. You don't need an e-commerce, you don't need all that stuff. So go
Yeah.
to executivenomad.app and just type in a win, a loss, a lesson that you've had. And the AI program, this used to take me 90 minutes on a call to discuss with clients.
Hmm.
It will tell you in about a minute and a half what you could offer, and that's the first stage of it. So, well, what am I going to offer if I become an executive nomad? What am I going to do out there? Well, this
Yeah.
will tell you what you could do. And you can put in 20, 30, 40, 50 wins, losses, and lessons and really get some idea of what you can offer. So, and the second thing is to know where your clients are. How are you going to get in touch with them? That's really important. So, once you've got this win, loss, or lesson, it will tell you something that you could do. You could offer out given your business. Then you've got to give it a name, because what a lot of the people that I work with who are getting into the nomad space, they are. They've been in business a long time. They're executives, say they're heading towards retirement. They're heading towards burnout sometimes, but they've got a good story. But what they haven't had is a way to productize or systemize what they actually offer. So I often
Yes.
talk to clients and I say, we're talking about something they did, and they say, well, I saved $12 million for my company on an integration 5 years ago. And I'm like, well, that's an amazing win, So now
Yeah.
you need to work out how did you do that? What did you do? And then the next stage is you need to know, once you give it a name, then you need to know how to offer it to people. So
Yeah.
the first step is that you offer it to people who within your network, but also within the same sector. So you're from the logistics space right now, but you want the laptop lifestyle. You want to be the executive nomad and make proper money while you're doing this travel.
Right.
You need to work out something that you can first offer into the space that the logistics space, to use that example. But
Hmm.
then you now know that once you know that you've got the logistics space, there's logistics companies all over the world. So I'm
Yeah.
talking to you out in New Jersey. I'm in Bulgaria right now. Tomorrow I'll be on calls with Dublin first thing in the morning. I'm just going to deliver what I do. That means you can give your advice as long as you can offer it and give value in this format. You can give that advice to everybody around the world. So you've got
Right.
a name, you've got an audience. Where do you get those people from? You go to something like Apollo.io, which will give
Hmm.
you the name of 10,000 people in the logistics space who are at the chief technical officer level. You know how to get in touch with them immediately, because you can get their address, you can get their email, you can get their LinkedIn stuff. And all you have to do is create the product that you're going to offer and say, this answers this problem you as a logistics company have. And
Right.
that may be staffing, that may be cost infrastructure, that may be integration problems. Anything that you have as a win, loss, or lesson that you can offer out, that's what you do. And secondly, as I say, you repurpose it. What can you take now that you did it in logistics?
Hmm.
Where else would it work? Would it work in warehousing? Do they have the same problem?
Yeah.
Does it work in communications? Do they have the same problem or a variation?
Right.
So actually building out your business, you only need three or four. I really only offer three or four services at any one time to my consulting clients.
Yeah.
That's all you need. You need to get your first two or three in the bag, because that's what gives you the credibility. You say, I just worked for so and so, and I got them this result. And then you
Yeah.
need to really just say, I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna do this thing. And then take yourself off Airbnb, take yourself off to whatever country you've really, really wanted to live in. Just say, I'm going there with my laptop, with my phone, I'm going there with my
Yeah.
kit, and I'm still in business. And that's it. There's a few structures around. Like I say, I have the London business address and phone number. That sort of
Yeah.
stuff you can find online. That's very easy to do.
Right. Oh, I love that. I love that. Now tell people about the products and services that you provide.
So my main business, my consulting business, is consulting out into the communications and strategy section. But what with Digital Nomad, with Executive Nomad, what I'm doing is I'm bringing in people to teach them how to live this lifestyle, and
Right.
it's really putting it together. What do you need to do? As I said, I've just explained the main thing, but
Yes.
it's really just about getting yourself in front of people with that service. So I teach people how to do that. I teach them how to become an executive nomad. So what do they need? They need a business name. They need a business framework. They need to understand their tax structure so they can get the best out of their tax structure depending on where they're from. America's very different because you have the global taxation. If you're coming out of Europe, it's easier, it's better, but you still got to work it through so that you stay above board. But I take
Yes.
people right through the whole process. I take them through so that they actually feel comfortable, and we have a community. So that's really important for them to know, is that if ever there's a question and they're out there and they've got a client, then they need to know that they've got some backup and some support, because otherwise, we're in this room, we're in this sort of, we have a community, but you're not all in the same room, so you've got to know that you've got
Right.
people to call on, and we're building that out fast.
I love that. Now, where can people find you?
ExecutiveNomad.com, nice and easy.
I love that. I love that. Well, this has been amazing. I thank you so much, Jamie, for coming on the show. You
Oh, my
live the
pleasure.
life that so many people, just dream of having. And, so many people work in corporations and they get so drained and they get so burnt out and they make X amount of dollars, but at the end it's like a lot of them walk away because they just can't handle it anymore. It's just too draining. And sometimes they don't feel the fulfillment that they thought they were going to feel, when
Yeah,
they
yeah,
started. And to be able to be an executive nomad like you, that really that is a dream job for many individuals.
yeah,
Many people would love to just be able to take their laptop and travel the world and see the things they always dreamed of seeing and still
yeah, for
have,
sure.
you know, a very successful business at the same time. And they're training others and they're teaching others how to live that lifestyle. So it's definitely a wonderful business that you've established. And I really commend you, for all your
Thank you.
achievements. And I thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing about, this position that people could actually become these type of consultants, because I don't think a lot of people, are aware that they have the ability. To
Absolutely.
them, it's just like
Yeah,
a dream, but they don't realize that dream could actually become their reality if it's done properly. If they have someone like
yeah,
you guiding them and sharing with them step by step how to become like that, their dreams can definitely become their realities. So
yeah,
I thank you
absolutely.
so
It's not as
much.
difficult as it seems. It's step by step, and really having just having the passion to go for it. You really want to do this. This is real. This is a lifestyle that you can have. You just got to know this. You've got to know the step by step, and then you just got to really want it.
Oh, 100%. And I think that's the thing, is that people look at the big picture all at once. They get overwhelmed and no, this isn't
Yeah,
possible. But
yeah,
then if you break it down and you find someone like yourself who will guide them step by step from the beginning to the end, they can, it's not as difficult as it
yeah.
seems. And they could have that within a certain time frame and then live the life they want to live and feel fulfilled and happy because they're doing something that is giving them joy and they're living a life that brings them joy. And really, what is life without happiness and joy?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much, Jimmy, for coming on the show. I appreciate
It's my
you.
pleasure.
And
It's been fun.
and 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 if people want to find the app, where do they go to find the app once again?
ExecutiveNomad.app.app. I
Okay.
put it on its own page, so that's all they have to think about. Just put in their details, and it's completely free. Put in their details. It just helps people. It helps generate ideas.
Right.
That's what it's based on. That's what it's all about. It just helps people think, oh, wow, actually, I could do this.
Right. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Jamie. This has been wonderful, and I hope you'll come back on the show and we can talk about little
Absolutely.
different areas and go more
Yeah.
detailed in this. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
absolutely. Okay. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it,
Oh,
Stacey.
you're very welcome. You have a great day.